Don't move! Sarah Campbell fired into the air, but it was too late. The bear cub charged straight at her, not stopping at the gunshot. In 3 years as a ranger in Denali, she'd seen hundreds of bears, but this one? He wasn't attacking, he was pleading. The cub collapsed at her feet, whimpering. His fur was spattered with red stains, not his blood. Sarah lowered her rifle. "What happened to you, little guy?" she whispered. The cub lifted his muzzle. His eyes were full of despair. He was an orphan. A trail of blood led deeper into the forest. The cub tugged at her jacket sleeve with his teeth. His whimpers grew more desperate. "All right, show me," she said, turning on her radio. "Base, this is Campbell. I have a situation with a bear cub. Need backup." Only static. The cub pulled harder, his small claws scraping the ground. Where was he leading her? Sarah checked her GPS. They were 5 miles from the nearest trail. No one should be here. 30 yards ahead, she saw it. The mother bear lay on her side among the rocks. Sarah ran over, but knew immediately. Too late. The mother had been dead for hours. But how did she die? The cub ran to his mother's body and whimpered, nuzzling her muzzle. Sarah felt her throat tighten. Even a bear cub understands death. She approached the carcass. No claw marks, no wounds, but on the neck. "My God," Sarah whispered. A thin red line crossed the bear's throat. A clean cut. This wasn't natural death. Someone had killed her. Break time for 5 seconds. 2. The cub suddenly stopped whimpering. His ears perked up, head turning east. He sniffed and let out a low growl, a sound that shouldn't come from a 3-month-old. Sarah grabbed her rifle. "What do you hear?" "Engine sounds, distant but approaching." Someone was coming here. Someone who shouldn't be in the protected zone. Sarah quickly surveyed the area. Open clearing, nowhere to hide. If these were the ones who killed the bear. The cub suddenly rushed to her, grabbing her pant leg with his teeth and pulling sideways. He knew something she didn't. "Lead," Sarah whispered. The cub pulled her toward dense juniper bushes 15 yards from his mother's body. They squeezed inside just in time. 2 ATVs entered the clearing. Sarah held her breath. 2 men in camouflage, faces covered with bandanas. The first ATV carried an icebox. The second had rifles and what looked like surgical instruments. Poachers. The first man stopped by the bear and shouted, "Jack, she's still here." "What about the cub?" replied the second, looking around. "Ran off, don't care. The gallbladder, that's what we need." Sarah felt horror wash over her. The cub beside her trembled, but not from fear, from anger. Jack pulled out a long knife and crouched by the carcass. "Quick, rangers patrol this area." "Relax, they won't be here till tomorrow." Sarah gritted her teeth. How did they know her schedule? The cub made a quiet whimper. Jack raised his head. "You hear that?" "What?" "Sound. A bear cub." Sarah's heart stopped. The cub tensed. Jack stood, knife in hand. Maybe the little one came back. The first man laughed. "So what? It can't do anything." "It can tell." Jack stepped toward the bushes. Bear cubs remember scents. If rangers train it to point. Cold sweat covered Sarah's back. Absurd. Bear cubs aren't witnesses. But these men weren't taking risks. The cub whimpered softer, looking into her eyes. In his gaze, understanding of mortal danger. Jack was 5 steps from their hiding place. 4, 3. The cub burst from the bushes. But he didn't run toward Jack. He sprinted in the opposite direction, deeper into the forest, making as much noise as possible, crashing through branches, squealing at the top of his lungs. "There!" Jack shouted. "Get him!" Both men abandoned the carcass and chased after the cub on their ATVs, engines roaring to life. Sarah waited until the sounds faded, then emerged from hiding. The clearing was empty except for the mother bear's body. She pulled out her radio, hands shaking. "Base, this is Campbell. Emergency. I have a poaching situation at coordinates." She rattled off her GPS location. 2 suspects, armed, 1 bear carcass, requesting immediate backup and wildlife crime unit. "Copy, Campbell. Units en route. ETA 20 minutes. Sarah looked toward the forest where the cub had disappeared. That little bear had just saved her life by sacrificing himself as bait. Now she had to find him before the poachers did. Sarah crashed through the underbrush, following the cub's trail. Broken twigs, scattered leaves, tiny paw prints in the mud. He was running scared. The ATV's engines grew louder behind her. "Split up!" Jack's voice echoed through the trees. "Cut him off at the ravine!" Sarah's blood ran cold. They knew this area better than she did. How long had they been operating here? She found the cub's tracks leading toward Devil's Canyon, a dead end with 60-foot drops on 3 sides. If he went there, he'd be trapped. Sarah keyed her radio. "Any unit, this is Campbell. Suspects are pursuing a bear cub toward Devil's Canyon. I'm in pursuit." Static. Then, "Campbell, this is Chief Morrison. Stand down. Wait for backup." "Sir, they'll kill the cub. He's a witness to—" "A bear cub is not a witness, Ranger. That's an order." Sarah stared at the radio. Morrison had never called her by rank before. Something was wrong. The engine sound split. One ATV north, the other south. They were boxing the cub in. Sarah made her choice. She switched off the radio and ran. Through the pine grove, she glimpsed movement. The cub was 50 yards ahead, limping now. His small legs couldn't keep up this pace much longer. Then she saw Jack on his ATV, cutting through the trees from the left. He had a tranquilizer gun. "There you are, little guy," Jack called out, raising the weapon. Sarah didn't think. She grabbed a fallen branch and hurled it at Jack's head. It connected. Jack tumbled from the ATV, cursing. The tranquilizer gun flew into the bushes. The cub saw Sarah and ran to her, collapsing at her feet. She scooped him up. He weighed maybe 20 pounds, all fur and trembling fear. "I've got you," she whispered. Jack struggled to his feet, blood trickling from his temple. "You stupid bitch, you don't know what you're dealing with." "Enlighten me." Jack smiled, wiping blood from his face. "Check your radio, Ranger. Call your precious backup." Sarah's heart sank. She turned on her radio with one hand, clutching the cub with the other. "Base, this is Campbell requesting immediate backup at Devil's Canyon." Morrison's voice crackled back. "Negative, Campbell. Return to base immediately. That's a direct order." Jack's smile widened. Funny how orders change, isn't it? The second ATV roared into the clearing. The other poacher dismounted, rifle in hand. "Jack, you okay?" "Fine, Tommy. Just having a chat with our ranger friend here." Sarah's mind raced. Morrison was supposed to be her backup, not theirs. How deep did this corruption go? The cub in her arms whimpered, pressing closer. She could feel his tiny heart beating like a hummingbird's wings. "Here's what's going to happen," Jack said, retrieving his knife. "You're going to put down that cub and walk away. Tell your boss you never found us. And if I don't? Accidents happen in the wilderness. Rangers fall into ravines. Bears attack hikers." Jack tested the knife's edge. Tragic, really. Tommy raised his rifle. "Jack, we don't have time for this. More rangers coming." "No," Jack said. "Morrison called them off. We're good." Sarah felt the cub tense in her arms. His head turned toward the forest, ears pricked. Then she heard it too, the distant sound of helicopters. Jack heard it and his face went pale. "That's not possible." "Maybe your inside man isn't as inside as you thought." The helicopter sounds grew louder, multiple aircraft coming fast. Tommy panicked. "Jack, we gotta go!" But Jack wasn't listening. He was staring at the cub with a new expression.
not greed, but fear. "That thing's been listening," Jack whispered, "the whole time. It heard us talking about Morrison, about the routes, about everything." Sarah looked down at the cub. His dark eyes were fixed on Jack, unblinking, intelligent. "Bears don't understand English," she said. "This one does." The helicopters appeared over the tree line. Not Park Service birds, but FBI. Someone had been watching the Watchers. Jack raised his knife. "It dies now." The cub let out a sound Sarah had never heard before. Not a growl, not a whimper, but something almost like a word. "Help."
The word hung in the air like a gunshot. "Help!" Jack's face went white. Tommy dropped his rifle, stammering, "Did that thing just—" "Shut up!" Jack lunged forward with the knife. Sarah threw herself backward as the blade whistled past her face. The cub in her arms let out a sharp bark, not a bear sound, but something else, a command. The forest exploded with movement. 3 adult bears crashed through the undergrowth, roaring. Not random animals, they moved with purpose, surrounding the clearing. Jack and Tommy spun in circles, weapons raised. "Where the hell did they come from?" Tommy screamed. Sarah stared in shock. Bears didn't coordinate attacks. They didn't respond to calls from cubs. Unless... The lead helicopter touched down 50 yards away. FBI agents poured out, weapons drawn. But their leader wasn't who Sarah expected. Dr. Elena Vasquez stepped into the clearing, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Stand down, everyone!" Sarah knew that name. Vasquez was a behavioral scientist from the National Wildlife Research Center. What was she doing here? "Dr. Vasquez," Sarah called out, "how did you—" "We've been tracking this operation for months," Vasquez said, approaching slowly. Her eyes never left the cub. Jack backed against a tree, knife still raised. "You don't understand. That thing isn't natural." "You're right," Vasquez stopped 10 feet away. "He isn't." The cub in Sarah's arms made a soft chirping sound. The 3 adult bears immediately sat down like trained dogs. Sarah's mind reeled. What's going on? "Project Kodiak," Vasquez said quietly. "Experimental intelligence enhancement in wildlife. We've been testing cognitive development in bear cubs using controlled stimulation and specialized training." "That's impossible." "Is it?" Vasquez gestured to the cub. "Ask him his name." Sarah looked down at the dark eyes staring up at her. "What's your name?" The cub's mouth moved, forming sounds that couldn't be natural. "Ben." Sarah nearly dropped him. The forest fell silent except for the helicopter rotors. "Ben was part of a controlled study," Vasquez explained. "Enhanced cognitive development, pattern recognition, even basic language comprehension. But 3 months ago, he and his surrogate mother escaped from our facility." Jack laughed bitterly. "Enhanced? That thing's a freak. It's been watching us, learning our routes, our schedules. It led you straight to us." Sarah felt the pieces clicking together. "The poaching wasn't random. You were hunting enhanced bears. Worth millions on the black market," Tommy admitted, his hands raised as FBI agents closed in. "And Chief Morrison?" Sarah asked. Vasquez's expression hardened. "Morrison's been feeding information to poaching rings for 2 years. The enhanced bears were supposed to be his retirement fund." Ben made another sound, pointing with his tiny paw toward the forest. Sarah followed his gaze and saw movement in the trees. More bears, watching silently. "How many?" she whispered. 12 subjects escaped, Vasquez said. "Ben's family group. They've been protecting each other, hiding from both us and the poachers." Jack suddenly broke free from the agents surrounding him. "If I can't have him, no one can!" He dove towards Sarah with the knife. Ben leaped from her arms, moving faster than any bear cub should. His small body slammed into Jack's chest, sending him sprawling.
But Jack's momentum carried the knife forward. Sarah felt the blade pierce her shoulder, a white-hot lance of pain. She stumbled backward as blood soaked her uniform. Ben landed hard against a tree trunk. He didn't get up. "Ben!" Sarah crawled toward him, ignoring the pain in her shoulder. The little bear's eyes were closed, his breathing shallow. A small trickle of blood ran from his mouth where he'd hit the tree. "He saved me," Sarah whispered, cradling him gently. Vasquez knelt beside them, her hands moving over Ben's small body. "Possible internal injuries. We need to get him to the facility immediately." "Your facility?" Sarah's voice turned cold. "You experimented on him. You turned him into a target. We gave him abilities that saved your life." Sarah looked at Ben's peaceful face, his small chest barely rising and falling. At what cost? Ben's eyes fluttered open. He looked at Sarah and managed one more word, barely a whisper. "Family." Then he pointed weakly toward the forest, where 11 pairs of eyes watched from the shadows.
The helicopter ride to the research facility was a blur of medical equipment and worried voices. Ben lay unconscious on a tiny stretcher, his breathing monitored by machines that seemed too large for his small body. Sarah sat beside him, her shoulder bandaged but refusing stronger painkillers. Will he make it? Dr. Vasquez checked the monitors. Bears are incredibly resilient, but Ben's injuries are severe. Through the helicopter window, Sarah watched the forest recede below. Somewhere down there, 11 enhanced bears were waiting for news of their family member. The facility appeared ahead, a complex of buildings hidden in a mountain valley, surrounded by high fences and guard towers. Sarah's stomach churned. This was where Ben had been created, experimented on, turned into something between wild animal and human tool. They landed on a medical pad. Veterinary staff rushed Ben into surgery while Sarah was led to a debriefing room. FBI agent Marcus Cole sat across from her, a thick file open between them. "Ranger Campbell, what you've witnessed today is classified at the highest levels. Project Kodiak was designed to create enhanced wildlife for search and rescue operations. By experimenting on baby bears? By giving them abilities that could save human lives. Ben's cognitive enhancement allows him to understand complex instructions, recognize faces, even communicate basic needs." Sarah leaned forward, despite the pain in her shoulder. "You made him smart enough to suffer." Cole's expression softened. "We didn't expect them to form such strong family bonds. When Ben and his surrogate mother escaped, the other subjects became protective." Through the window, Sarah could see massive enclosures in the distance. Some were empty now, the escapees' former homes. "Where are the others?" she asked. "Still in the wild. We've been trying to recapture them for months, but they're too intelligent now. They avoid our traps, coordinate their movements, even set up lookouts." A soft chime interrupted them. Dr. Vasquez entered, pulling off surgical gloves. "Ben's stable," she announced. "No internal bleeding, but 3 cracked ribs and a concussion. He'll need weeks of recovery." Sarah felt relief flood through her. "Can I see him?" "He's asking for you." In the medical bay, Ben lay on a specially designed bed, his small chest wrapped in bandages. His eyes opened when Sarah approached. "Ben," she whispered. He made a soft sound, not quite a word, but close. His paw reached toward her hand. Sarah took it gently. "You saved my life." Ben's mouth moved with effort. "Sarah." She blinked back tears. He'd learned her name. Dr. Vasquez monitored from nearby. His language development is accelerating under stress. The trauma may have triggered new neural pathways. "You're talking about him like he's a science project." "Because he is." Vasquez's voice was clinical but not unkind. "Ben represents 5 years of research, millions in funding. He can't go back to the wild. He's too valuable." "He's not property." "Legally, he is." Sarah felt Ben's paw tighten around her finger. His eyes were alert now, watching the conversation.
A loud alarm suddenly blared through the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Agent Cole burst into the room. "We have a problem. The perimeter sensors are going crazy." "What kind of problem?" Vasquez demanded. 11 heat signatures approaching from the north, moving in coordinated formation. Sarah's heart raced. The other enhanced bears. "They're coming for Ben," Cole said grimly. "And they're not alone." Through the reinforced windows, Sarah could see movement in the tree line. Large shapes moving with purpose between the trees. But there were more than 11. "How many?" she asked. Cole consulted his radio. "Initial count shows 30+ animals. The enhanced bears have recruited wild ones." Ben struggled to sit up in his bed, making urgent sounds. Sarah helped support him as he pointed toward the window. "What is it, Ben?" His mouth worked carefully around the syllables. "Family, coming." Dr. Vasquez checked her computer. "Facility lockdown activated. The enhanced bears can't breach our security." But Ben was shaking his head. He looked directly at Sarah and said something that made her blood run cold. "They know weakness." The light suddenly went out. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red. From somewhere deep in the facility came the sound of massive doors being forced open. Agent Cole grabbed his radio. "All units, we have a breach. The enhanced bears are inside the building." The facility shook as something massive moved through the corridors below. Emergency alarms wailed as lights flickered between red and darkness. "How did they get in?" Cole shouted into his radio. Static answered him. The communication systems were down. Dr. Vasquez pulled up security feeds on her tablet. "Impossible. They've disabled the electronic locks from the inside." "Bears can't hack computers," Cole protested. Ben made a sound from his bed. Not quite a laugh, but close. Sarah understood. "They didn't hack anything. They had help." "What do you mean?" "Someone on the inside. Someone who knows the facility layout, the security codes." Sarah's eyes fixed on Vasquez. Vasquez stepped backward. "That's ridiculous. I'm the project leader." "Exactly." Sarah's voice was cold. "You created them, experimented on them, then lost control. Now you want to shut down the project before anyone finds out how dangerous it really is." Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Not human footsteps, but the deliberate padding of large paws. Cole drew his weapon. "Whatever's happening, we need to evacuate." "No," Ben said, clearly, struggling to stand. "Stay." The door handle turned slowly. Sarah's heart hammered as the door swung open. A massive brown bear filled the doorway. But this wasn't a wild animal. She moved with careful intelligence, her eyes scanning the room before settling on Ben. "Mama," Ben whispered. The bear approached slowly, ignoring the humans. She sniffed Ben carefully, making soft sounds of concern over his injuries. "That's impossible," Vasquez breathed. "The surrogate mother died in the escape." "No," Sarah realized. "You told us she died, but she's right here." Behind the mother bear, other enhanced bears appeared in the hallway. They waited patiently, showing none of the aggression expected from wild animals in a confined space. Agent Cole kept his gun raised, but didn't fire. These bears weren't attacking, they were rescuing. The mother bear gently nuzzled Ben, then looked directly at Sarah. In those intelligent eyes, Sarah saw something impossible: gratitude. "She remembers," Sarah whispered. "She knows I protected Ben." Dr. Vasquez suddenly lunged for a red button on the wall. Emergency containment protocol. "I won't let 5 years of research walk away." The mother bear moved faster than anything that size should. She intercepted Vasquez, pinning her against the wall with one massive paw. But she didn't hurt her. She just held her there, waiting. Ben struggled down from his medical bed, his small body trembling with effort.
He walked slowly to where his mother held Dr. Vasquez against the wall. "Ben, don't!" Sarah called out. But Ben wasn't looking at Vasquez. He was looking at a control panel beside her, the master release for all the facility's remaining test animals. His small paw hovered over a large green button. "You can't," Vasquez gasped. "The other subjects aren't ready for release. Some are unstable, dangerous." Ben's dark eyes met Sarah's. In them, she saw a question. "Trust me?" Sarah looked around the room. At Agent Cole with his weapon, at Vasquez pinned to the wall, at the other enhanced bears waiting in the hallway. These weren't monsters or weapons. They were a family that had been torn apart by human ambition. "Do it," she whispered. Ben pressed the button. Throughout the facility, electronic locks disengaged. Cage doors slid open. From the deeper levels came the sounds of animals, not just bears, but wolves, mountain lions, even birds, emerging into freedom. "You've doomed us all," Vasquez said. But the enhanced bears didn't rampage. They moved with purpose, checking on the newly released animals, calming the frightened ones, organizing evacuation routes. Ben's mother released Vasquez and turned to Sarah. She made a soft sound, then gently picked up Ben in her mouth, the way mother bears carry their cubs. "Wait," Sarah called out. "Where will you go?" Ben looked back at her from his mouth. "Home," he said clearly. "Real home." The family of enhanced bears moved toward the exit, but Ben's mother paused. She set Ben down and approached Sarah one final time. The massive bear extended her paw. Sarah, hardly believing what she was doing, reached out and shook it gently. "Thank you," the mother bear said, in a voice that was barely recognizable as speech, but unmistakably intelligent. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Take care of him." Agent Cole lowered his weapon. "What do I put in my report?" Sarah watched through the window as the bears disappeared into the forest. Not as test subjects or escaped experiments, but as a family returning to the wild where they belonged. "Put that sometimes," she said, "the right choice isn't the legal one." Months later, Sarah received a package with no return address. Inside was a photo taken by a wildlife camera. Ben, now grown larger and healthier, sitting beside a stream with his mother and siblings. On the back, in crude but recognizable letters, someone had written, "Family safe. Thank you, Sarah." She smiled and pinned the photo to her ranger station wall right next to her commendation for exceptional service in wildlife protection. Some secrets were worth keeping.